All right, so today we're going to talk about 7.4 rate of return. So if you don't have your notes out, go ahead and make sure that you take your notes out now. So again, 7.4. Earlier we talked about what the stock market is, and we've talked about what is a stock. Today we're going to talk about the rate of return, which has to do with that value of a stock appreciating or depreciating in value. So go ahead and make sure that you take out your notes and go ahead and turn so that you are on rate of return. Right. So I like this quote by Warren Buffett: do not save what is left after spending, spend what is left after saving. So you should always think about making sure to save first and then spend. And that's how, again, you're going to build your wealth. All right, so let's just jump right into some vocabulary. A rate of return. Rate of return is the ratio of money gained or lost on an investment relative to the amount invested. This is also known as your return on investment, or ROI. So again, I would write that off to the side, ROI. So rate of return, the ratio of money gained or lost on an investment relative to the amount of money invested, also called your return on investment. Your return on investment is also called your percent growth, and it is a percentage that tells you the relationship between how much you spent on an investment and how much you get back from that investment. What's important on these questions that we're going to talk about, or on these types of problems, is that we are looking for a percentage of return. So this rate of return, or this return on our investment, is a percentage that we are looking at. We do have a dollar amount that we may have grown or lost, but we are looking at a percentage. Okay. All right, so in calculating a rate of return, so we'll start with this quick video here.
Suppose the value of your stock currently is $34.25, and suppose that you had purchased it at $29.50. What you would do is you would take the $34.25 subtracted by the $29.50, and then of course your denominator is the same as your original value. Now, using a calculator to do this is going to be a little more straightforward. When you do the subtraction, you're going to find out that the numerator is going to be $4.75. In this case, you gained $4.75. But to figure out how much of a percentage gain this is, you divide by 29.5. Now, rounding to 3 decimal places, you're going to get 0.161. But what does that mean? Converting it to a percentage gives you more of a practical idea as to how well the stock is doing. But converting a decimal to a percent, just convert it to 2 decimal places to the right, move the decimal shift, and you're going to find out that your stock, in this particular case, has gained 16.1%, which is actually not bad given.
Make sure that you write this down. The rate of return, or your return on investment, is calculated by taking today's price, or the current price, or the sell price, okay? Taking that price and subtracting it from the original value, that purchased value. Okay, so we're gonna take today's, or the sell price, and subtract the original value. And then we will take that and divide it by the original value. So what was that purchase value? Because rate of return is a percentage, take that and then multiply it by 100 to convert it to your decimal to a percent. Okay. Little question there. What would it mean if your rate of return were negative? So in order to get a rate of return that's negative, that means that today's price would have to be less than the original price. And so that means that, for example, I bought it at $10. That's the original value. And then I sold it for $5. I sold it for less than what I purchased it for. So that negative answer would mean that I lost money. Okay. My rate of return, if it's a negative, means that I lost money. And that's the percentage that I have lost on my investment. And again, it means that you are selling it for less than what you purchased it at. Okay. All right, we're going to jump into some examples now. Okay, so this first example, example 1 here, Andrew bought 1 share of Apple stock for $26 in 2016. 2 years later, he sold it for $45. So he bought it at $26 and sold it for $45. He has made money. Okay, he has gained money. What is his return on his investment and how much money did he gain or lose with this stock? So using our formula here, the current price or when he sold it is $45. Today's or the original price was originally purchased for $26. So we're going to take 45, subtract 26. Okay, that gives us 19. And then we're going to divide it by that original price, which is $26. And then that's going to give us 0.731, and we're going to times it by 100 to convert it to from that decimal to a percentage. So Andrew's return on investment was 73%, about 73%. He gained 73%. And the dollar amount that he gained was $19 with this stock. So his stock appreciated by $19, which was a 73% return on investment. So a lot of times in the investment world, we look at the percentages more than the dollar amount, because for most of us, we look at $19. $19, that's nothing. That's, you know, a meal out. But in reality, when we only started with $26 and now we have $19 more, that increase of 73% within, let's see, this 2 years, that's actually pretty significant. So a 73% gain in 2 years is pretty good. All right, let's go on and look at example 2. Let me switch over here. All right, so on example 2 here, we are looking at Tori, who bought 1 share of Macy's stock in 2016 for $33.38, and then 4 years later sold it at a closing price of $5.09. So this was my original, was the $33.38. And then the 509 is the sell or today's. And so how much money did they gain or lose with the stock? First off, we should recognize that they lost money. We went from 33 to $5, so that they definitely lost money. But how much money did they lose? So in order to find this out, we need to take $33.38 and subtract $5.09 from that. And we find that Tori lost $28.29. All right, so what is her rate of return? All right, so to find the rate of return, remember that it is today or the sale. We'll say sale. Okay, so sale minus the original divided by the original. And so really this top part is what we did up here in a sense, but we are selling it for $5.09. We originally purchased it for $33.38. And then we're going to divide by that purchase price, $33.38. So the difference between 509 and 3338, that is negative 28.29. So lost and a negative are kind of synonymous in our cases here. So lost and a negative. They lost $28.29. And we are looking at Now taking that and dividing it by that original price of 33.38. So you want to do this division aspect first. I want to take the negative, oops, let me clear this out here. All right, I want to take 509, subtract 33.38. You'll see I get a negative. I want to divide that by $33.38. And so you'll see I get that as my decimal. And then I want to now times it by 100. And so I have negative 84.75. So this is equal to negative 84.75%, because remember, rate of return is a percentage, or I can say a loss of 84.75%, because remember, a negative is the same as a loss. So negative 84.75% or a loss of $84.75. All right, let's go on example 3 down there. Example 3, Jenny's been watching the stock of Tesla for the past 5 days, and the closing prices were as follows. So here are all of our closing prices that we have. You'll notice that we have 5 days worth. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 days worth. And it says, what is the average value of the stock? So remember, average, add all together and divide by how many there are. So, and divide. Okay, so we need to add these stock prices up. So don't forget this guy over here. So the $849.99. We need to add all 5 of these prices up, and then we're going to divide by how many there are. And in this case, there are 5 items. So we're going to divide by 5. So 827, oops. 827.51 plus 853.36 plus 862. Grab your calculator and do this with me. 845 plus 849.99. Add all that together and then divide by 5, and we will find that the average is $847.57. All right, go ahead and turn or flip over, turn the page there. We got 2 more examples to go through here, example 4 and example 5. All right, so 4 is very similar to example 1 and 2 that we've already done. We are looking at a return on investment. Okay, so we're looking for a percentage. We buy at $9 per share into Olive's Toys, and a few years later we sell at $3.52. So remember that on this, because we're selling for less, we are taking a loss. Okay, so we're going to take the sell price, $3.52. We're going to subtract the original price, which was what we purchased it at, or Tom purchased it at $9. And we're going to divide by that original amount of $9. Okay, and then, okay, so when we do this, we find, again, $9 is more than the 3, so we have a negative dollar amount of $5.48. So Tom has lost $5.48 on his investment. We're going to divide by that original amount so we can find that return. And then remember, we want it as a percent. So move the decimal or multiply by 100. You're going to find that you have a negative 60.89%. So the return on investment was negative 60.89%, or a loss of 60.89%. Okay, that's really important that you either have the negative in the front or you say loss of. All right, and then question 5 here. So this is an IPO question, and so in fact, in April of 2019 is when Zoom first went public. So just before the COVID times. The price was $36 a share at that IPO. So you invested $36,000. Wouldn't that be nice if we actually had that much? But that's okay. Into Zoom at the IPO. And then in February 5th, 2021, so about 2 years later, the price had increased to $419.59 a share. And the question is, how much money would you make if you had sold on that day? So in order to find out how much, okay, so how much money, I'm going to put this in a different color, how much money, we are looking for a dollar amount, and this is our profit. Okay, so keep that in mind as we kind of work in this problem here. First off, we need to find out how many shares were purchased. And so we have $36,000 that we have as an investment, and that was $36 per share. And so what we have is that you actually purchased a total of 1,000 shares bought. Okay, so 1,000 shares bought with this. Now, the profit on this, okay, so on this with the profit, you purchased for $36 and it has increased for $419.59. So we actually need to find the difference between those two to determine what our profit is. So we need to take that current price, $419.59, and subtract $36. To find that, we have $383.59. Okay, so the profit is $383, $383.59, $383.59. This is the profit per share. And that's the important part of this. This is that per share. They have made $383.59. And they bought a total of 1,000 shares. So we want to multiply that by the number of shares. All right, and so that gives us our amount here that we have made, if we actually sold and actually had invested this amount here, we have made $383,590 profit. So that is a pretty big profit that was made from that investment. So just kind of an FYI, we'll talk about IPOs, we've talked about them kind of throughout, but that's how you can see where people can appreciate significantly from there. Okay. All right. So that's the end of our examples. What you have left is some practice problems. All right. So you have a series of practice problems just below in your notes. You have 5 problems, very similar to the problems that we just went over together. You have the rest of class to work on these problems. I will be checking these problems tomorrow to ensure that they are complete and correct. That'll be the first thing we do in class. So make sure you utilize the remaining time in class to get this done. You have at least 20 minutes to get this completed. Make sure you do those practice problems in your notes. Okay, I am checking them. Do the problems. Make sure that you practice. I know some of you might be questioning and wondering because we just left off on our Zoom problem. Okay, $36 IPO in 2021, $419.59. I'm curious, so I'm going to look it up. What is the current Zoom? So Zoom stock. All right, what's our current Zoom stock price. I'm recording this on the 13th of January. The stock market is closed at the moment. Zoom currently is $78.82. So over that time, here's the 5-year chart of it. Over time, it has kind of normalized, especially in the past 2 years, a little bit more. You still would have made money. So $78 at the IPO, we were at $36 a share. We're at $78. So we have, more than doubled our amount if we still were holding on to that, but we wouldn't just have its max amount of cost, which actually the max, see if I can pull it up, was October 16th, 2020. The highest it was trading for was $559. So anyways, make sure you get those problems done. I will see you tomorrow. So make sure those problems are done and complete and you understand what you're doing. This is the extent of the math for this unit. So really important, make sure you understand and you've got this and for your test so that you're successful.